Today, we are going way, way back to the oldest surviving story in human history. Seriously, we're talking about a tale written on clay tablets over 4,000 years ago. And get this, it asks a question we're all still trying to figure out today. How do you live a meaningful life when you know for a fact that it's going to end? So let's dive into the incredible Epic of Gilgamesh. And just to give you an idea of how foundational this story is, think about this. Long before the story of Noah's Ark was ever written down in the Old Testament, the tale of a great flood that wiped out almost all of humanity was already recorded right here, in ancient Mesopotamia. And that's just one piece of the incredible legacy of the epic we're exploring. And at the very heart of this ancient epic is this guy, Gilgamesh. He's a king, a warrior, a tyrant, and, yeah, eventually a hero. His journey is basically the blueprint, the original template for almost every hero's story you've ever heard, from Odysseus all the way to Luke Skywalker. What's so amazing to me is that this story, which we've had to piece together from all these broken clay tablets, isn't just about cool monsters and angry gods. It's about the most human things you can possibly imagine. The incredible power of a deep friendship, the gut-wrenching grief of loss, and that desperate search for meaning in a life that we know doesn't last forever. You know, every great hero's journey has to start somewhere, usually with a hero who's, well, a bit of a mess. So first, let's get to know our hero Gilgamesh, and the one person the gods literally created just to shake up his world. So who exactly was Gilgamesh at the start of all this? Well, he was the king of Uruk, which was one of the world's first real cities. He was also a demigod, 2 parts god, 1 part human, which meant he was unbelievably strong, powerful, and brave. But all that power had totally gone to his head. He'd become a tyrant, a bully, who used his power to oppress the very people he was supposed to be protecting. Things got so bad under his rule that his people were at their breaking point. They cried out, they prayed to the gods for some kind of relief, and the gods heard them. They decided that what this out-of-control king needed wasn't just a punishment. No, he needed a counterpart, an equal, someone to challenge him.
And wow, what a contrast they came up with. On one side, you've got Gilgamesh. He's civilized, royal, and totally corrupt. And on the other side, the gods create Enkidu. Enkidu is basically a pure force of nature. He's a wild man, raised by animals, who lives out in the wilderness, and he has a strength and a spirit that is a perfect match for the king's. He was literally made to be Gilgamesh's mirror.
So Enkidu is eventually brought into the city of Uruk. And when he and Gilgamesh first meet, what do you think happens? Of course, they fight. It's this epic wrestling match where they're just testing each other's strength. And when it ends in a draw, something amazing happens. They look at each other and they see an equal. And just like that, they become the best of friends, like brothers. They set off on these huge adventures together, like slaying the terrifying monster Humbaba in the cedar forest.
But here's the thing, all these heroic deeds start to get noticed, and not in a good way. Their success attracts the attention of the gods, and this leads us to the central crisis of the entire story. This is the moment that completely shatters Gilgamesh's world and forces him to face the one enemy he can't just punch his way through, death itself.
Now, what's so fascinating about this part of the story is that their downfall doesn't come from a failure, it comes from their success. They're so full of victory, their confidence starts to look a lot like arrogance. The goddess of love, Ishtar, tries to seduce Gilgamesh, and he just cruelly shuts her down. So in a total rage, she unleashes the bull of heaven to destroy his city, but Gilgamesh and Enkidu manage to kill it. It's this huge victory, but it's also a massive insult to the gods.
So the gods all get together and they decide that for these offenses, a price has to be paid. A life must be taken. And it's not the king, the one who's 2/3 god, who has to pay it. No, it's his best friend, his soulmate, the wild man Enkidu, who is sentenced to die.
And this quote, it just cuts right to the bone. It shows Gilgamesh's raw humanity. For the very first time, this mighty, powerful king is completely helpless. He just has to sit and watch his best friend fade away, and his grief is just absolute. But pay attention to the shift here. It's not just sadness. When he sees the physical reality of decay, that worm, his grief turns into something else entirely, pure, gut-wrenching terror. Because he realizes that's what's waiting for him too.
This terror of his own death completely changes everything. It strips away all his royal arrogance and sends him on a brand new, desperate quest, not for glory, not for power, but for a way to escape being human.
So Gilgamesh literally sheds his kingly robes, he puts on animal skins just like his lost friend Enkidu, and he just wanders off into the wilderness. He has one single goal now: find the secret to living forever. In his mind, he can conquer death just like he conquered any other monster.
His journey takes him all the way to a man named Utnapishtim, the only human who ever survived the Great Flood and was granted immortality by the gods. But at every single step, Gilgamesh fails. Utnapishtim tells him, okay, if you want to conquer death, first try conquering sleep. Stay awake for a week. He fails. Then he's told about a magic plant at the bottom of the ocean that can make you young again. He actually finds it, but on the way home, a snake steals it from him while he's taking a bath. The universe is basically screaming at him, immortality is not for you. And this brings us to the final and, honestly, the most important part of any hero's journey, the return home. Gilgamesh comes back with nothing he set out to find. He failed. But it's in that failure that he finds true wisdom.
So he doesn't have the secret to eternal life, but he comes back with something so much more valuable: a new perspective on what it even means to be human. The journey stripped him of his fear, it stripped him of his tyranny, and instead he finds acceptance. He finds a sense of purpose and duty to his people. He's a completely different person.
Now, these are the very first lines of the entire epic. But what's incredible is that at the end of the story, it is Gilgamesh himself who says these exact words. He's showing his city to the boatman who brought him home. He's not bragging about his own muscles or his own strength anymore. He's bragging about the great city he rules, this lasting creation that will be there long after he's gone. He finally found his legacy.
And that is the profound lesson at the heart of the world's very first epic story. True immortality isn't about dodging death. It's about looking death in the eye, accepting it, and then using the time we have to create something of value. A family, a city, a piece of art, a story. Something that will live on long after we do.
So why are we still talking about this story 4,000 years later? Because it's not just a story, it's like the source code for storytelling itself. It gave us the hero's journey, the first recorded flood myth, and it influenced pretty much everything that came after it. But most importantly, it proves that for millennia, human beings have been looking up at the sky and asking the exact same huge questions about what this all means. In the end, Gilgamesh found his immortality in the great walls of his city and in the story that he carved into tablets for us to find. He learned that what really lasts is what you leave behind. And that leaves all of us with a question that's just as real today as it was in ancient Uruk. What is the legacy that you're building?